Hey guys, Fireball Jack here with a brand new video to you. So, I've been seeing a lot of talk about a support strike. Now, let me get this out of the way. First things first, toxicity should never really be a thing. If you've seen my earlier videos, even though they're not that great on the audio quality, you know my stance on it. I think toxicity is not healthy for any game. It normally kills games much faster. It's just, it doesn't help anything. Now, you also do know that criticism and telling people to swap is not toxic. If you have a DPS player who's, you know, 5 and 13, you can tell him to swap. That's not being toxic. You have a healer who's dying a lot, you can tell him to swap. You have a tank who's not really tanking, you can tell him to swap. That's not toxic. But I totally know about the whole Necros thing. Tons of stuff like that. So let's get into it a little bit today. So I wanted to bring you the idea. Is support the easiest role? And let me just get through the first part. Yes and no. Now, before you get upset, support means, first of all, let me tell you something. I mainly play tank. If you see my content, if you see most of my gameplay, it's almost always going to be tank. I do play support because I try to fill every role. I have 2 characters for each, except tank, which I have like 3. But every single role, I have 2 characters to play. That way, I know what it feels like. For my support mains, I mainly play Rocket and Invisible Woman. Regardless. So this is not coming out of malice. This is not coming to bully you or anything like that. What I'm trying to get past is the idea of what most people are talking about. I'm not trying to say what Necros is saying is right or wrong. What I'm trying to explain to you today is where the mindset is coming from. So let me explain. As a support player, there are 3 really important things you have to be aware of. 1, it's positioning. 2, is ability management. And 3, ult economy. So let me go through each point one by one. That way, you can hopefully understand where the other side of the argument is coming from. And then at the end, we can explain and talk a little bit more about whether, oh yeah, maybe support is a little easy, or maybe support's really hard. So first things first, positioning. Now, positioning is different for every single role, but there are some things that overlap. So, first, play around natural and unnatural cover. What do I mean by that? Natural cover are walls, choke points, doorways, anything like that. That's natural cover. There's a good chunk of healers in this game that don't need direct line of sight to heal. Right, I'm thinking Rocket, Cloak and Dagger. 2 pretty easy healers that anyone can really pick up and play, right? So, playing around cover. Next is playing around unnatural cover. Things such as walls, group walls, tanks, stuff like that. What I'm trying to get here is that your positioning should always be in a safe environment. You should never be putting yourself into any possible risk, because anytime you throw yourself into a risky situation is where you could die. What do I mean by that? Avoiding easy sight lines. There's a lot of snipers in this game that can kill you in 2 to 3 hits. You tend to be the squishiest characters in the game, so it doesn't take much for you to die. So, avoiding easy sight lines. If you know there's a Hela, because you probably know there's a Hela, right, or a Hawkeye, or whatever, Moon Knight, whatever there might be, even Punisher, try to avoid being out in the open. Try to play around a corner, around a wall, around your team. But the most important thing is you're in the back. You're the back line. You're not in the middle of the team. You're not in front with the tanks. You should never be close to your tanks inherently. And what do I mean by that? You're the back line. Okay? You are the backbone of this team. Okay? If you go down, it's over. There's no more healing. So, what are some benefits? So first, the backline tends to be where the least amount of action happens. Second, you have the most important tool that I think a lot of people forget when it comes to being a support main, which is you have the most information on anyone on your team. What do I mean by that? You have the most view of the battlefield. You're probably able to see your team and the enemy team. If not at least a majority of the team fight that might be going on. Two, you can see your own team's health at all times. What does that mean? Let me explain, very important, okay? Your tank, as someone who plays a lot of tank, is in the front. He cannot pay attention to every single doorway. He is paying attention right in front, trying to keep the team, the front line, from going back. Your DPS can focus on the flanks sometimes, but they might be busy engaging in fights, retreating, tons of things, right? Maybe they're on the flank right now and behind enemy lines. The point is, your team has a very narrow point of view at that moment. You're in the back line. You have the most. So, please, 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 ping enemy divers or ping possible danger. You see more than anyone else on your team, 9 times out of 10. If you see a Black Panther or an Iron Fist or someone off in the distance, ping them. Because sometimes your tanks and your DPS, it isn't that they're not peeling, it's that they don't have the ability to peel because it's too late. Let me give you an example, alright? If I'm playing the Thing, right, and I'm keeping the front line up, right, or trying to push the front line forward, and suddenly you ping Black Panther and then you're dead, well, there's not much I could do. I might have a second or two, which, yeah, I might be able to jump to you, but you'll be dead by the time I get there, right? Worse if it's other tanks that don't have the ability to just jump straight to you. But I've seen in a lot of games, especially where I win, where my support calls out or pings a possible danger spot. Maybe they saw Black Panther and they can't ping Black Panther, but you can ping the area, right? Suddenly, I'm a little bit more aware. Now I'm like, okay, my support saw something that's scaring them. Something that could be horrible for them. So what am I going to do? Very easy. I'm going to keep a little bit more of an open mind. I am still fighting the front line, but I'm keeping an eye on the back of my shoulder. I might not be engaging as hard to create space, but I'm trying to keep my support from dying. You have the most information. Use it wisely. If you don't, you're throwing and you're not getting the most value as a support player. Remember, I know I'm calling it support, but you're a strategist. You have the strategy role. The reason why is because you can create the strategies. If you see someone coming at you, you can change the strategy of, oh, let's push forward and take point, to, uh-oh, they're about to harass me, I need help. And the strategy changes. And then it can change again. And you don't even have to use your mic. I understand there's lots of assholes on the internet, and I won't take that away. Some of them are very, very toxic, and I think they're the worst players. Normally, the louder the person is, the worse they are. But something important. You can't blame your team for not peeling if they didn't know they had to peel. Remember, everyone has something they're doing. Very few times are people just on autopilot, right? So, help your team. You see some danger, maybe it's a Moon Knight going at a weird angle, maybe it's an Iron Fist, maybe it's Wolverine, whatever it might be, ping it to let your team know, and you will see automatically more people trying to peel for you. Because if you're watching my back, I'm going to watch yours. Next, let's get into ability management. So, something very important, something I see, and something even I do on occasions, which is not always correct, right, is managing your abilities correctly. You have some of the strongest abilities in the game, period. But if you use them random or whenever you feel like it or whenever it's off cooldown, you're leaving yourself open for enemy dives. You're leaving yourself open to lose possible clutch plays. Let me give you just an easy example that I see a lot more often than I wish I did. Okay? I might be playing Luna, or sometimes I'm playing Mantis, or other things like that. I'll just be playing a healer who has some type of stun ability, right? And or maybe I'm seeing another one, and they use their snowball, or they use their sleep in the middle of the battlefield. Now that's not a bad thing. It's okay to try and confirm that kill. Sometimes it's the right play, but make sure you're using it accordingly and correctly. Once you lose one of those things, your survivability instantly plummets. If you have things like Loki Ruin, right, or Cloak and Dagger Bubble, make sure you use them at the correct times. Because if you don't, you can lose lots and lots of value. Let me explain something. Something as I play more Cap, I see is I'm fighting an Adam Warlock, or let's say a Cloak and Dagger, and I'm trying to kill them. I'm about to kill them, and they drop bubble. That's perfect. I've wasted all that time, and yes, I wasted their time a little bit, but I didn't get much value from there. All I did was stop one healer for maybe 10 seconds, right? But I see this happen too much. I dive in, and the moment I hit the ground, or hit them even once, they drop bubble, and what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to just run around. I'm going to wait for that bubble to go away. It's a little bit harder for like things like Loki Ruin or things like Adam's Soul Bond, but still, don't pop it instantly. Wait to use it at the correct time, and it'll make it harder for you to die. Remember, support, the most important thing is that you don't die. If you're dying off cooldown, we're having an issue, okay? So, if you have a stun like Mantis or Luna, you could also use it to stun big ultimate plays. I've seen it happen more than enough times. Happens on Spider-Man, happens on things like Wanda, anything. Make sure you're using abilities, especially escape opportunities, correctly. Don't just use it for damage sometimes. That's okay once in a while, but you're leaving yourself open for easy kills. Now, last thing, and this is ult economy. Now, this might be one of the harder things for the supports to deal with, okay? So, it's a no-brainer that your ults are the strongest in the game, okay? You will always have the strongest ults in the game. There's a reason why we had a support meta where there would be points where you had like triple healer and you couldn't play the game for about 10 to 20 seconds because every healer just pops their ult, right? You have the strongest ones in the game. You have to use them accordingly. Something very, very important. The way you use your ultimate will either dictate a win or a loss because of how ultimates are in this game. So, what do I mean by that? Please communicate when you're going to use ult or when you have your ult. Now, like I said, I understand there's a lot of people who abuse the fact that maybe girls are playing or minorities are playing. As someone who is Hispanic, I know sometimes I've had some toxic stuff. I have a little bit of thicker skin, but that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't mean you should be allowed to take that, right? But you can communicate in other ways, and I totally understand. It's a little bit harder, but follow me, okay? I want to make your lives better because someone who plays tank, I want you to feel appreciated for the job you're doing. So one, when I'm playing a healer and I don't want to talk, right? I normally do talk, but if I don't want to talk that day, whenever I have my ult, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the little ping wheel to tell, hey, I'm at 100% ult. Now, if I'm using voice comms, every time I'm near ult, I try and say, hey, I'm at this amount of ult, so my team can play accordingly. Again, remember, you're the strategist. People are going to change the way they play if you have a support ult or if you don't. So, good comms is going to help the toxicity die down a little bit. Especially if you're doing really good as a support and your damage dealer is talking shit and he's, 5 and 13, your team will most likely dogpile on the DPS, even if you're like a minority or a girl or even just playing support. Okay? Now, let's say again you're not using voice comms, okay? And you want to pop ult. For me, the easiest thing I like to do is I like to spam it 3 times. I say my ultimate is ready, my ultimate is ready, my ultimate is ready. And of course, I use the in-game chat feature to text, hey, whenever I spam this multiple times, it means I'm going to pop it. Okay? Either I'm going to pop it instantly, or I'm going to pop it the moment I see big damage, like an enemy ult or anything like that. That way, my team knows, okay, my other heal, especially my other strategist doesn't panic pop ult. Because in this game, if 2 healers pop at the same time, that's wasted. It's not worth it. This game is not built around popping 2 ults at the same time. You want to pop it one at a time. Alright? So use that to help not only your team, but help your other strategist. That way, they don't catch flack if they accidentally pop ult. Again, the more you talk and the more you're aware of each other's ult charge, abilities, and all those things, the easier it will be for your team to win. Next thing, if you're close to an ult, about 75%, you play your life like you mean it. What do I mean by that? Okay? When I say play like it's your last life, I mean play like it's your last life. You have to be incredibly careful. The reason why is if your team dies with a support ult in the bank, that could be the game. And let me explain a little bit. If a damage dealer or a tank wastes an ult, damage dealers especially, their ults are kind of whatever. They can be big, but they're not game-changing most of the time, right? Tank ult's a little bit more impactful if you mess it up, but support ults, that's the big money maker. You waste a support ult, that could be the game. And it is how it is. Like I said, support is not inherently easy. You have some hard stuff about you. You mess up an ult, that's your fault, and it is on you. Yes, everybody messes up ults. That's fine. But the more ults that you make a mistake on, or the more ults you double pop in, that's grounds for telling you to maybe swap. Or that's grounds for getting blamed for losing a fight. Okay? Anyways, let me explain a little bit more. Okay? You want to try and pop your ult after the enemy ult, whether it be an enemy damaging ult, enemy tank ult, or preferably after an enemy support ult. You know this. I'm not going to go really hard into explaining. You know your job. I know that as support players, you're not dumb. You know what you're doing. So, I'm just letting you know, make sure you pop it after. Especially if you see a tank player or someone acting a little bit weird or a little bit more aggressive, probably means they have ult. So get ready to pop your ult. And please, do not die with your ult. I see so many times where I'm playing with another support player, or maybe it's me. I make a mistake because I'm out in the open, or I just don't play right, or I don't do the things I talked about beforehand, die, and the enemy team has a support ult, or they have 2 support ults, and we only have 1. And in this game, if they have 2 support ults, and you have 1, you lost. That sucks. That's the game. That's the team fight. That could be the last point. That could be the crucial moment of where the game drops. So you need to understand, and you really need to get it through your head, that the more ults you have, the higher chance you have of winning. What do I mean by that? You should be tracking your enemy's ults as much as you're tracking your own. Let me explain why. The games I normally tend to win on is the games where I have more ults than the other team. Let me explain. I know I just said about being careful with your ult, but sometimes, and I mean sometimes, right, especially with good team play and a solid team, just popping it kind of off cooldown, especially on characters like Rocket, where the healing is not crazy, right? that is going to snowball the game. If you keep popping ult, right, and of course correctly, not just randomly whenever, right, but whenever they start to push and start to maybe make some type of move, pop your ult, and you push them back, that's going to make them feel bad. And remember, if my team has a collective amount of 6 ults and they only had 3, who do you think won that team fight? Who do you think won that game? Probably my side, because I had more ults, right? And this is just support ults, not damage dealing ults. Your ult means so much to this game. Do not die with it, do not waste it, and please don't hold onto it for the perfect moment. Alright? There has been some clutch healer plays because they stall on point with their ult. Right? It's the last thing they do. They probably should have popped it earlier if possible, but they stall it and we can come back from it. Just make sure that you're using it correctly. So let me end off this video with a little final thoughts. So, support isn't brain dead. But from what I've played, from what I've seen, and what I've done mainly, it is the easiest role. But that's not bad. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. Just because it's the easiest role doesn't mean you're bad at the game. Okay? We still need you. As a tank player, I can't survive without you. Just like how you can't survive with me. Something important to realize is that every role is important. Every role is demanding in its own way. If you put a support player to play like a DPS, they're going to die. If you put a tank player to play like a support player, to play like, not play as, play like, you're going to die. Each role is so vastly different. And just because yours is the easiest does not mean it's not hard. It does not mean you're bad at the game. Okay? So, hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say there. Okay? Next, your role is very important. Right? I know I just said your role is really easy, but your role is very important. It's complicated in its own way, just like I said beforehand. And one last thing, this might be a little dicey to say, but in my opinion, I don't think supports needed the recent buffs. What do I mean by that? It just doesn't solve the issue. Yes, I saw the patch notes. The devs are like, why is no one peeling? I won't lie. As a tank player who even most of the time has to solo tank, it's because you're being a little bit of a crybaby. Not because you are one, but because you're acting like one. You're acting entitled. You have to understand this game does not owe you anything, just like how this game doesn't owe me anything. And I know it's hard to hear, it's a little bit of tough love, right? But these buffs only make people who queue up together or people who have good comms stomp harder. Let me explain. Okay, and this will be the way to wrap up this video real quick. A good team is already really good, especially the way the matchmaking is. It seems like it's a lot of stomp or get stomped. Right? This just makes solo queuing harder. As someone who primarily solo queues, right? I've been playing a lot, and I realized that, yes, dive is annoying. I've played against dive, but you have so many options, especially, you know, Luna, you have freeze, and I know it's hard to hit that freeze, but you can still hit that freeze, right? Sleep, even easier. You're getting dope a lot, play rocket. I love messing with caps or iron fists or any kind of DPS player trying to dive me, because I can just, what was my first thing? Location. Where's my positioning? I'm playing near a wall. That means I get free escapes all the time. And they waste all their time because I can keep shooting out heals. Right? Regardless. It just makes solo queuing harder. Now, as someone who plays Captain America, as someone who plays Thing, as someone who plays primarily tanks, buffing healers doesn't do much, but just make it harder for everybody else. And remember, Please don't be toxic as well. Please stop being entitled. The support strike is kind of silly. Because, yes, what Necro said was stupid as hell. But he's just some random guy on the internet. Don't take it seriously. Right? I know a lot of people are probably influenced by what Necro said. But be the difference you want. Going on the support strike, I understand. But you're inherently throwing games. There's been too many times where I've been playing a game and, you know, I'm competitive. And I'm like, okay, awesome. I have another tank. It's Emma or whatever. It's normally Emma. The newer supports tend to play the newer characters or easier DPS characters. Not to say it's bad, but just that's how it is. And then after that other tank's just not working well, I look at their profile and their support main. I understand, but you're throwing yourself into the lower ranks. Right? Now, it is complete bullshit the way the MR system. The fact that you get less MR for healing tons is stupid, and they need to fix that instantly. I don't know what they were thinking. I get it, but they need to make the system where healing and all that is tracked a little bit better, because that's the thing. As a tank player or as a support player, there are just things you can't track. You know? If I'm making a ton of space, right, how do you track that? Are you going to track my kills? Well, as a tank, I'm not going to get the most amount of kills. I'm not going to get the most amount of assists, right? As a healer, how is it tracking the healing? You know, like, if I'm putting out amazing heals, and at the end of the game, I get, what is it, best sidekick, right? How's that tracked? How is that making my MR? I've noticed that playing support does give you a little less MR if you're not getting high kills. But please don't act entitled. It really ruins the game. Because if you want to play DPS, practice DPS, but don't practice in competitive. Most people are trying to rank up, and they're trying their best, and it really disheartens me when I'm playing as best as I can, but then I look at my team, and we have 2 support players who are on Moon Knight going negative, and Emma going dying off cooldown. Like, if you want to play tank, or you want to move into tank, or you want to start, you know, filling other roles, that's awesome. But they're not. They're instantly picking them. And I get it. Damage. You know, everyone wants to play damage. I understand. But really think about it, especially in competitive. If you want to learn, go into the practice range, go into quick play, go into conquest. There's tons of ways you can practice a character without destroying other people's MR, because I don't want you to get, you know, harassed. I've been harassed. I started off where I was like, oh, I'm not good at the thing, and I got tons of people telling me I was bad. And then I played more and more and more, and, you know, I refined and refined and refined, and now I'm semi-decent at the game. But going on a strike and, oh, you know, I'm going to instantly pick tank, I'm instantly going to pick DPS, when you're not comfortable with those roles, it's just going to bring you more toxicity, because when people start looking at your games or your profile, unless you have it private, right? But, you know, why are you making private? Come on. This is a video game. Like, you're not getting stream sniped. Trust me, most of us are not that cool. Right? Me included. Right? If you're doing those things, it looks entitled. You look like a crybaby who, unfortunately, got the lollipop because mom just wanted to shut you up. And that's not what you are. You're a support player. You're the backbone of the team. Act like it. Start making those calls. There's a reason you're not a support character. There's a reason you're a strategist. You're the one with the plays. And if your team, right, or even 1 or 2, whatever, isn't following those rules, that's on them. And sometimes you have to understand, you have bad teammates, right? That's it. But please don't be entitled. Please don't be toxic. Please don't throw games or try to mess with people, okay? It doesn't look good. It brings the community down. And as someone who does fill, I hate picking Rocket to fill and having people say, oh my god, another support player that doesn't da 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 da. Right? It sucks. I don't want to hear that mentality anymore. And hopefully with this video, we can pick up the pace a little bit. Anyways, goodbye, guys.
You up. You're halfway there. Keep going.
This'll be a joyride with me around.